Welcome back to the podcast. This week's episode is about something that's been coming up on a lot of my consultations and on my coaching calls with a lot of the parents I work with, and that has to do with lying. Something that teenagers do. You've probably caught your teenager in a lie. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about why teenagers lie and what you can do about it as a parent. But before I dive into that, I want you to go in the Wayback Machine to when you were a teenager. And I remember when I was a teenager, I was mostly a rule follower, a high achiever. You know, there weren't a lot of rules in my house, so I didn't have a lot of rules to break, but I was typically a rule follower. I didn't lie to my parents a lot, but I did lie. And sometimes it was to avoid getting in trouble, but sometimes it was just for some silly thing that I just didn't feel like talking about. And I'm sure you can remember that, the same thing growing up, that you as a teenager lied to your parents. Whether your parents were really strict or not and the reasons behind it, it's just something that teenagers do. So keep that in mind as you listen to this episode, and also remember that if and when you catch your teenager in a lie. So there are a couple of things here that can be tricky when it comes to teenagers and lying. One is that lying tends to peak during adolescence. And another is that parents aren't always great at noticing and recognizing when teens are lying. So there's more lying and there's less of you being able to catch them in a lie. So it's kind of like a no-win situation there. But again, knowing that lying is normal can kind of help take a little bit of the stigma around it. Just because your teenager's lying to you doesn't mean that something has gone wrong. It's a normal thing to do. So let's talk a little bit about why. Why do teenagers lie, and why does it peak around this time? So there's two reasons, basically. One is something I talk about on this podcast all the time, and that is that teenagers push boundaries. They want to see what they can get away with. And they also want to see how it feels to do something a little bit risky, right? So that's part of I'm establishing my independence. I'm seeing what I can get away with. And they may want to cover up behaviors of things that they know you're not going to like. So they want to push boundaries and they want to be independent. The second reason is because their brain is still immature. And that's where emotional regulation and impulse control can really be a boundary. So they're pushing boundaries, they want to be independent, and also their brain is still developing. Two kind of general reasons why teens lie a little bit more than, say, kids or even older adults. So let's dive a little bit into the nuance of lying. There are different reasons, like I said, why teenagers lie, and there are, in my assessment, three different types or three different reasons why your teenager may be lying to you, or the types of lying that they may do. And the first one is avoidance. So they steer away from topics that they know you maybe have big, strong emotions or feelings about. They may distract you from a conversation about something that they know is like a hot topic for you. So they're avoiding it altogether. They're not outright lying about something, but they're steering around the part of the conversation that they know you may have a strong opinion about. The other thing they may do is omission. So that's leaving out the things that they know will upset you or the things that you don't like on purpose. So it's specifically things that they know that you may have a hard and fast rule about. So they'll just leave those things out. Like, I'm going to a party, I'm going to leave out the fact that the parents are out of town because I know that you won't like that. So that is a lie by omission. The third type is a lie of commission. So this is intentionally telling stories or saying things that are false, like an outright lie. The other two are just avoidance and omission, like leaving it out. This one is like just more intentionally. These are a little more rare. It doesn't happen as often, and it's less likely to happen if you have a good, strong relationship and a pretty strong foundation of trust with them. So those are the three types of lies. Now let's dig into the main reasons why teens lie. And as you listen to this list, I want you to, again, think back to when you were a teenager and why you lied, what you would lie about and why, and kind of sift it through that filter and remember what it was like to be in their shoes, to be in that age group, and what it felt like when you decided to either not mention it or leave it out or just straight up lie about it. There are 7 things. The first is to get out of trouble. The obvious, like, I didn't do that. I wasn't there. Well, that wasn't me, right? I don't want to get in trouble. So I'm either not going to tell you about this thing, like this thing that went down. I'm going to avoid talking about that because I know I'm going to get in trouble. So that's one of the main reasons why teenagers lie, is so that they don't get busted. The second one is because they want to do something that they know you won't like them doing, or that you won't allow it. So again, back to that party example, there's a party and the agreement is that there will be a parent around when they go to a party. They may not tell you about that part because they know, oh, if mom and dad know that there's not going to be a parent at this party, they won't let me go. So I'm just going to leave that out. We'll just not talk about it. So they're going to do something that they know you won't like. That's number 2. Number 3 is because they disagree with your rules or they think that they're unfair. So this is a big one. So many of the parents I talk about, they're, the teenager is going to say, that's not fair. Nobody else's parents have these rules and this and that. And so they're frustrated with the rules that they have in place. So they may lie because they're pushing against whatever system or program or structure you have in place. They're going to lie because of that. So it's like a pushback. And they think it's unfair. Number 4 is they think that what they want to do is harmless. So maybe it would upset you, but they don't really think it's that big of a deal, so they won't bring it up, or they won't talk to you about it, or they'll just kind of like avoid it altogether because they don't think it's a big deal. So it's like, I know mom's going to react about this, so I'm just going to not talk about it. The 5th one is because they want to protect someone's feelings. And this could be a friend, it could be a sibling. They may be trying to protect your feelings. That's something to be aware of too. They're being sensitive to other people around them. So maybe they're worried that their friend will get in trouble or that their friend would be embarrassed if you know something. Same thing with a sibling. Or maybe they don't want to tell you the truth about something that happened because they know that you would be disappointed or upset or sad. So they kind of avoid that. Number 6 is because they want privacy. They just don't want to talk about it because they want to have their own life and they don't want you involved in everything. So they may leave some stuff out, they may avoid, they may just not talk about it with you. And number 8 is because, like I mentioned before, they want to establish independence and autonomy. It's all about them feeling like they're in more of control over their life, over their circumstances, over their boundaries, their decisions. And that's why lying plays such a big part, because they want to be an adult. They're transitioning into an adult, and they're practicing that under your roof. But it's hard to do that because they're still technically there to follow your guidelines through the whole thing. So they may lie to work around, to make it feel like they have a little bit more control over their life. So that's why teens lie. And now I'm going to talk about the things that they lie about, the most common, and there's 6 of them. This is a big podcast with lots of lists. So you may want to listen to it more than once because it's a lot and it's really fast. But I've actually got some feedback from a lot of you that you like the to-the-point way that I deliver my podcasts. And I do that because that's how I like to ingest podcasts and content. So if that's you, here you go. Another list. Why teens or what they lie about. Number 1 is what they spend money on. I remember when I was young, I was in love with River Phoenix. My friend and I, we just loved him so much. And I wanted to go see a movie, The Mosquito Coast, that he was in with Harrison Ford. Most people don't even know this movie, but I saw it in the movie theater and my friends and I just became obsessed with this movie. And so we went and we saw it again. And then we went and we saw it again. And my dad got upset. He's like, why are you spending so much money watching this movie? You've already seen it 3 times. That would be a situation where I would lie, like I saw something else or we didn't go see it. I don't even know if I lied about that, but what they spend their money on. They have money, they want to spend it on what they want to spend it on, and they don't want judgment from you. That was kind of a funny story. Know a little bit more about me, right? And what I was like as a teenager, high achieving student who loved River Phoenix. All right, number 2, who their friends are. This is quite an obvious one. So if they're friends with somebody that they think that you either don't like or wouldn't like or does things that you may not approve of, they're not going to be honest about who they're hanging out with because they don't want you to get upset or they don't want you to say you can't hang out with them. So that's number 2. Number 3 is drinking and substance abuse. This is coming up on a lot of my parent calls recently. Teenagers are drinking. They're getting exposed to drinking, and they may be participating in other substance use activities with friends, and they don't want you to know about it because they know they're underage, because they know you wouldn't approve. So, of course, many of them will be lying about it. Know that that's normal, and I will be talking about how to reduce the amount of lying, especially around these things that can be potentially harmful. The spending of the money, not necessarily harmful. Who their friends are, kind of a gray area, could be a little bit harmful depending. Drinking and substance abuse definitely could be harmful. So in a moment, I'll be getting into what to do if you are noticing that they're lying about that or that's happening. Number 4 is what they're doing when they're not with you. This was a lot easier to get away with when there were no phones and there were no tracking devices. You could say, I'm going over to Susan's house, and your parents just had to believe that because they didn't know where you were going when you left the house. You could be going to Los Angeles and back if you live close enough like I did, and they thought you're at Susie's house and they would never know. But of course, the reason why you lie about it is because I don't want to deal with the conversation that I would need to have with my parents in order to be able to do this thing that I want to do. I don't want my parents to know what I'm doing just because I want to be independent. So they may just not share with you at all what they're doing. They may lie about it. Number 5 is romantic relationships. So whether it's just that they're in one at all, whether it's at who they're in the relationship with, they may lie around that as well. So essentially, they know you wouldn't approve for one reason or another, so they don't tell you about it or they lie about it. And number 6, probably the most common one, is homework and whether homework is done. Have you finished your homework? Yeah, it's done. And then 10 o'clock at night, oh, wait, I had this one assignment. Oh, really? Surprise. I thought you were done with your homework. We've all been there. We've done it as a teen. We know. But that's a big one, lying about it, because they want to be in charge of their stuff. They want to be in charge of their time, and they don't want you bugging them about it. So they may lie about it. So before I touch upon what to do about teen lying, let's talk about how to tell if they're lying. Long answer short, there's no fail-proof way of knowing. There's no fail-proof way. Unless you are an expert at interrogation and you are in the police force or you are a detective, you may not ever know when your teenager is lying. That's hard. It's really hard. But that's where trusting your gut, trusting your instincts, of course, can really come in handy. So trusting your instincts is the short answer. You can't know for sure, but you can lean into your instincts. And it's really important here, and this is where I'll get into a little bit about how to minimize the amount of lying, is to have open and honest communication with them. Let them express their feelings and their thoughts without jumping to conclusions so that they don't feel like every time they talk about something, they're going to have a long lecture. And avoid harsh punishments when you do catch them in a lie, because if you do punish them harshly, then they will lie again in the future thinking, gosh, my parents are really harsh on me. I better not get caught doing this or else I will have this harsh punishment. So having this open communication, having conversations about it. And of course, the heart of the matter is, and this is the number one thing I want to enforce to you here, and I want you to hear this, is don't feel the need to over-control them. It's hard to let go. it's hard to just let them out into the world without, that connection or without always being there. But the more you try to control them, the more they're going to push against it. And that includes lying. So give them freedom, give them flexibility, trust them in advance, and then address it when that trust is broken. But let go. Let them be an independent person. That's what they're really wanting. And keep your guardrails up and communicate about the guardrails so that they know that there's still structure in place. But the more you try to control, the more likely they are going to be to lie. And of course, the more trusting your relationship is with them, the less likely they will be to lie to you. They are going to lie to you. So if you're honest and open with them, you talk with them about their behavior, you talk to them about other things, they're going to have a stronger bond with you, and they're not going to want to lie to you. It's not going to feel good to them to lie to you because you have a good relationship, and there will be less disharmony and pushing against. So to develop more trust, some things you can do is to be available for them when they're ready to talk. Don't force them into talking if they don't feel like it, but be a good listener and have a good open space for communication when they want to. Have clear rules, but also be willing to discuss those rules and also discuss the consequences. Be a good role model. So if they see you lying, they're going to internalize, well, I guess lying isn't a big deal. I see my parents do it, so I guess I can go ahead and do it too. Be a good role model. Be honest with the people around you and be honest with them. And avoid trying to trap them in a lie. That is one thing that will really impact their level of trust of you. So if you know that they're going to do something and you want to catch them, so you follow them and you say, hey, I caught you, you lied, that's kind of like puts you against each other. And that really can break the bonds of trust. So yes, talk with them when you know that they're lying to you, but don't try to catch them in a lie. Don't try to be sneaky about it. And also at the heart of it, try to get to the root of why they're lying to you. And approach that with compassion and curiosity, understanding, knowing it's normal, normalizing it for them. Let them know, hey, I understand that there's lying happening here, and I'm just curious as to what's underneath this. Why do you feel the need to lie to me? And how can we work together so that there's a little more honesty in our relationship? And always check your emotions and your thoughts about things. Remember, no teen is perfect. No person is perfect. And having this healthy relationship with them will help you navigate the experiences. So check your thoughts about the lying or the relationship, because at the heart of it, if you are feeling like there's something going on and you're not able to address it in yourself and address your emotions around either their lying or just your relationship with them or the loss of connection with them, it's going to impact how you interact with them. And that will impact the level of trust that you have and the dynamic in your relationship. So the closer the relationship, the more honest they're going to be. Also knowing that, of course, that every teen will be lying at some point and just being aware of that. So always check your emotions, check your thoughts about things, and don't use them as the source of sorting through those emotions. Have an outer place to kind of get it all off of your chest, whatever strategy works for you for there. So there you have it, a little background on teen lying, why they do it, what's behind it, and how you can avoid having too much lying in your house and have a little bit more of a trusting relationship with your teen. So if you'd like more support with this, and if you'd like support in navigating these teen years, whether for yourself or for your teenager, if they're looking for support at this time, schedule a consultation with me. And together we'll decide if coaching is a good fit for you and your family. I have coaching packages. I also have one-off sessions. So if you just have one specific thing, like if you wanted to address this lying, we can knock that down in one call. And you just have to schedule with me and we'll get going on that. We'll work on it together. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you again next time.